Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Taking the Lead. Today, we're going to be talking to someone who's been a friend for a long time. Actually, we had recorded one of these in February or March, and then the world exploded a little bit. So now seems like a good time to try to revisit. I'm going to introduce you in a minute to Margi Booth. She is, and I love this title, the active working chairman of M. Booth, of course. A number of her honors, the Holmes Report 2016 Innovator 25 list, New York Women in Communications Wiki Matrix Award, PR Week's 2016 Hall of Fame, People to Watch, and from the Public Relations Society of America, PRSA, one of its greatest honors for leaders is the John W. Hill Award. She is co-chair of the National Center for Learning Disabilities, and she's an advisor to the Harlem Chocolate Factory, which he tells me is a wonderful fine chocolate business with the best chocolate bars, bonbons, and truffles in New York. And let me add, Margi, that guests of the podcast who send samples to the podcast host get asked back. Let's just say that. Okay, let's turn things over. Everyone, here's Margi Booth.
Hi there, and I'm happy to send you samples.
Oh,
Absolutely.
lovely. That's the right answer. And obviously, like many folks, she's in her alternative COVID office in the country. Good for her. So let's dig right in. What are the three most important leadership tenets that have allowed you to lead others effectively since COVID-19 exploded in March?
Well, I think effectively is a key word. We hope effectively, right? But I would say that there are three, and I can describe each.
Please.
The first is lead by example. The second is lead with empathy. And the third is lead with transparency. So when you talk about leading by example, this has been just a horrific time in many, many ways for many, many people, particularly the Black community. And so part of what I've really tried to do is lead by example in that way. We had a spectacular town hall where our Black colleagues talked about how they felt during this time. And it was a real wake-up clarion call to all of us about how much we needed to do to make them feel comfortable, to get our place more integrated, etc. And so I felt that it was really important for me not only to read, which I've been doing voraciously, but to act, and also to let people know how I felt. So as the name on the door, I really took some time to talk to all of them in a big meeting about how I was feeling and about the humanity we needed to. And I thought that was a really good example of trying to lead and continuing to try to lead during this very tough time. And so that's leading by example.
Yeah. Well, I think that the effort towards greater D&I in all industries, and especially the PR industry, it is with us for a while. It should be, because we've got a lot of progress to make. I think, so kudos to you. I think something that's going to be here for a while is this feeling of uncertainty, not knowing what the next or new normal will look like and not knowing when it's going to be. And I think people are a little exhausted. So knowing that, talk a little bit about what leaders can do to lead in these uncertain times and, sort of for the long haul, as it were.
Well, I think that goes to my second one, which is leading with empathy. I think what I have really tried to do is to try to put myself in other people's shoes, because many people are living alone without significant others or roommates in small apartments. A lot of people have tried to escape New York City to feel more comfortable. Nobody knows when this is going to be over. And although our workforce has been incredibly resilient, I can see little bits of fragility starting to happen. And, what I've tried to do, again, is I have had maybe individual coffees with 70 of our people during this time, just to say, how are you doing? How can we be helpful? what can, what are you feeling? What can we do for you? Which I think is so important during this time, because as much as, and I feel very privileged to look at these surroundings, not everybody gets to do this. But even I'm feeling like, oh, come on, cabin fever.
Yeah.
I've got, and so I think a leader really has to dig in a little bit more than they would normally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that sparks a thought that there may be people on the team who, were okay March, April, May, June, but now it's continuing and continuing and no end in sight. So even if a leader was very diligent about checking in the spring and over the summer, check in again now, because some people may need that extra support. People who didn't need it then may need it now. And some people who were fine then aren't fine now.
Ab-
So
yeah, absolutely. And that goes to the third thing, which is leading by transparency. One of the things that's happening is that we're not sure when we're reopening. Now, a lot of New York, first we thought September, then we thought maybe January. Now it's probably somewhere between September and January. But people are anxious about that. And so they're anxious about when we're reopening. Many young people, should we keep our apartment leases? Should we give them up? um and so, and not only that, of course, everybody's afraid of their jobs, right? Am I going to have my job? And luckily at our agency, of course, we had a fallout when this first happened, but our business is very solid at the moment, knock on something that I'm not near. But and so what we have tried to do, and Dale and I, the CEO and I, have tried to do, is really lead with transparency, letting people know as much as we know at the moment in great frequency, so that nobody's left going, oh my gosh, we don't know anything. So
last question, I think a good sign that leaders are stepping in and trying to become better leaders, and wanting to read books about leadership. So, what are one or two books that you could recommend for leaders as we continue through this time?
So there's one book I just started reading that probably many of you have, maybe people have already read, but it's Malcolm Gladwell's book, Talking with Strangers. It's relatively new. I'm listening to it. So I'm listening to it through Audible. And what I think is amazing about it, it's all about how we make assumptions about people and who they are. Most people are strangers to us. And so we all always default to what we hope is the truth. And often that is not right. And so in these times when we're all Zooming, we're not together, really trying to get an idea of who somebody really is much more difficult. And this is just an astounding book. Now, many people have said, oh, Malcolm Gladwell, if you read the New Yorker article, he takes his articles and he tries to make them into books. But, and I also, someone said, listen to the Oprah interview first, which was really great. So if you want to shortcut this, listen to Oprah first. Then I think there's a New Yorker article on it, but I'm really finding it quite illuminating in terms of all the examples that he gives. And he goes through examples of people having trusted Bernie Madoff, and people, how did the Penn State thing happen, with the child abuse, and how did a rape happen in Stanford? And these might seem, a little odd off the business track, but it's very much in tune with how we communicate with people and the cues we use. So I'm finding it pretty interesting.
Fascinating. So thank you. So thank you for coming back. Thank you for sharing leadership wisdom that is very much relevant today. And I'll be looking in my mail for that package. So
Okay, you got it.
thank you.
Bonbons. You'll have to tell me bonbons or bars.
Oh, bonbons. We need to be lying back eating bonbons. Though the COVID-15 has struck, but we're doing work against it. So, we'll when we drop the COVID-15, then we'll enjoy them.
You got it.
All right. Thank you again. Take care. We'll see you next time on
Bye
Taking.
bye.
Bye-bye.